Now somebody stole my goddamn paper clips. Those were my paper clips. My paper clips.
Maybe it's time for Mace to be put out to pasture.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Micron podcast. I'm Ryan from ColdSploitation.com. I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
Well, it's going pretty good. Baseball started since the last time we did a podcast. So, openings of the season, always nice. Still chilly though for it. So that's always fun.
The Yankees are mediocre.
Yeah, so far, except for those hot bats. Hot bats. And
they're bowling pins.
I think on a more somber note, since we did our episode, for another tribute of a prominent actor, we've lost a couple more along the way. So it's getting to be difficult to keep up, but we need people to stop ripping on us, because we just can't fit them all in. And not only that, but our last episode, was kind of like we got off schedule, and so then this episode kind of got off schedule, and I hope to get back on schedule. But it's between that and people dying, it's been a tough time.
It's been a rough couple of months. They just had to check out early.
You know what? Can't blame them sometimes. The spark of life is sort of lost in the chaos sometimes, and it's just like, you know what? Why not?
Might be time to go.
Slip into that, slip into the sea, as the latest White Lotus season was set in Thailand and had a lot of Buddhist principles, and one of those that it kept coming back to is like, dying is kind of like just going back to the sea. You're a little droplet, and eventually you get cast up into the air and come back down to the sea. That's dying. And it's like, oh, you know what? I think I will go and do that then, right now. Yeah. And that's how everyone else is feeling.
So what's the show about again?
Oh, the White Lotus. Well, it's an anthology series, so it's the main thing that keeps it connected is that the White Lotus is like this fancy chain of rich people, spas and hotels in luxurious locations. So there's one in like Italy, and there's one in Thailand, and so the main idea is that these very rich, and most of the time, unlikable to some extent, in a bougie sort of way, go to these locations, and then you watch them as they get into shenanigans at at their stay for their vacation. It's like kind of a black comedy. It can be funny. Most of the time it has, a lot of serious notes to it at the end. It's not all like fun and games, laugh at rich people, haha. You find pathos in these people. You kind of understand them to a certain extent. And most of the time they're unhappy for reasons, So each season is a little bit different, but yeah, White Lotus season 3 was set in Thailand. Had a lot of Buddhist principles to it for this season because of that locale. And very good show though. Really enjoyed it. It just ended actually, the season 3. So something you should watch. You should check it out. And I'm meaning that towards you, Martin, but also the audience at large. But yes, but you specifically should watch too.
How does it compare to The Bridge?
It doesn't? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, it's I would say it's very different from The Bridge. All right, but back to the topic at large here. So we did Gene Hackman last time as a little tribute. This time we are talking Wings Hauser, which is probably not as well recognized of a name as Gene Hackman, but Wings was a very kind of a workman in the cult film B movies area. One of his most prominent roles is a movie that we're doing today. Because he did a lot of smaller roles, roles on TV, starring or appearing in various TV series, appearing as like a small character in a lot of shows. And back in the 80s, he did a lot of like lower budget action movies or kind of knockoff action movies. He even starred in an episode of Freddy's Nightmares back in 1990, which was the short-lived Nightmare on Elm Street TV series, which still has not gotten a very good release. So it's difficult to find and difficult to watch in any good quality. But the one that we are talking about today, from 1982, is probably one of his most recognized films. The one that kind of put him on the map. And that's Vice Squad from 1982, directed by Gary Sherman. Vice Squad is one of those movies that is... we covered a lot of ones that are kind of like this. Grimy, actiony, kind of set in the seedy underbelly of the cities, especially during the 80s when crime was at, kind of an all-time high. And especially places like New York City where they had red light districts and it wasn't really, the police were out and about, tackling this, but prostitution and sex-related trafficking was a pretty big thing at the time. In general, people were pretty horny around the late 70s and early 80s. And so, red light districts and, porn stores and theaters and all that were just a big part of life, I guess. I didn't live in that time, so.
Don't you wish you just go to a theater and, sit down with your buddies and,
just jerk off together?
Yeah,
this movie's pretty damn good. Yeah, I always wonder about that too. Like, guys who would, I don't know if this was a thing, but did dudes go together where they just like, you want to check out that latest XXX movie that just hit the theater over there? Sure, I'll check it out. And then you like get done afterwards and you're like, so what'd you think? Like, I don't know. I whacked off like 4 or 5 times in that one. Like, oh, that's pretty good. The last one we saw, it was only twice. So, I don't know. I don't know the rating scale of a movie like that when you go to see it on like 42nd Street and you're like, yeah, I think I'll just check this out in theaters with a bunch of other guys who are doing the exact same thing in different rows. It definitely, I feel like
hey, you're jerking off. Yeah, I'm jerking off. Hey, I'm jerking.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and you know what? What a good time to be alive. Everybody with a common goal back then. If you were going in that theater, everyone was there. Now you can't trust anybody. Like, what if they're trying, what if they're going to be loud and obnoxious when you go to the movie theater? Like back then, you didn't have to worry about that. Everybody's there for a common goal. It's funny to think about. And things like that, like I said, 1982, wasn't born yet. Didn't get to experience that. Didn't live in the cities either. So I'm sure, if I asked my dad, he probably doesn't have, he probably doesn't have an experience like that either. But,
we used to actually back in the by the way, did your dad at his video store have a 18 plus section? I don't remember.
I don't think
there
so.
Being a curtained off area.
No, I don't think he did. No, it was strictly
a family business.
Yeah, we probably had some NC-17 in there. I think we had Showgirls, but I don't think there was any like X-rated section. No.
What a time to be alive too, if you think about it.
Yeah, like the video worlds where you'd be like the roped off section.
Well, not only that, when you think about it, like our small little town, we had 2 video stores. What a time to be alive.
Yeah, I know.
Just thinking about it, like, man.
So
you should convince your dad to reopen it.
I know. Wouldn't it be great? Be nice. I should do it because I get all the a lot of the new releases, so I could open it myself.
And you could put all your cassette. No, it's got to be like cassettes and
everything.
Old school, and it's like, oh, look at that. Yeah. Hey, do you have this on a DVD? No, We got cassettes. we got a laser disc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said, though, we tend to cover these types of movies quite a bit. You know, we cover a lot of like those grimy, seedy, steeped in crime and grittiness. And, you know, we've done it's kind of a theme right now. We've done a number of them just recently, really. You know, so like even the French Connection to a certain extent does have some connotations with Vice Squad. Of course, it's a little bit different, but the idea is there. Vice Squad.
Same idea. One's filthy crime-ridden city. The French Connections is, you know, a neo-noir film.
Yeah.
Detective movie. This is action romp.
But I would say Vice Squad, from, you know, in 1982, really set in motion a lot of the later 80s films that would take place around, like detectives in the cities, especially in cities in districts like this, where you had detectives who were covering various elements of Vice Squad. You know, Vice Squad can relate to drugs too, but in this case, we're talking about prostitution specifically, and even more so specifically, the idea of the pimps taking down the pimps that are, you know, populating the city and you know, trafficking the prostitutes in this situation. I never actually. So I of course I knew about Vice Squad. I know of its, you know, cult film status, but I'd never seen it before. And I don't think you knew or had seen it or even knew who Wings Hauser was. Is that right?
Nope. I had not a clue who he was. After looking at like his filmography, he definitely has, you know, a workman output of, you know, just character acting.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one thing that's kind of missing from his resume for me would be he wasn't on any random Star Trek in the 90s.
Yeah, I know, because
I would say because all like great workman actors and actresses end up on like, you know, either on like the Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, or Voyager at some point for like an episode. Just like, yeah.
he definitely made the rounds on all the like the procedurals, though, like CSI Miami, regular CSI,
Criminal Minds,
yeah,
Analyst,
pretty much hit all of those.
Bones, Cold Case, Jesus.
Yeah.
Like,
even back in 1985 through the 96 with Murder, She Wrote, he was, and actually showed up in 4 different episodes as different characters as well. So Murder, She Wrote being one of those big roles for him. So yeah, like I think it makes sense, like as a, you know, for most people, probably not a household name, but one of those people who like you might see and be like, oh yeah, I recognize that guy. He showed up in something that I watched the other day. Because I think that's, you know, that was kind of his whole thing. But Vice Squad being probably his most prominent role, as we'll talk about when we get into the movie itself, being like, you know, again, one of his earliest movies, probably the one that really put him on the map and, you know, got him into all these other movies from the 80s that he did, whether they be, you know, smaller, low budget films or some of the bigger names that he's, you know, worked on as well. So, anything else you want to add in the intro before we move on?
No, I think about covers the nuts and bolts.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the beer that we got on the show today. While it has been, you know, still quite cold and kind of went back to shittification of the weather here after we had some nice days, we're looking forward to the future and to the warmer weather in the summer with a new beer from Corona, which is the Corona Sunbrew Citrus Cerveza. Something tells me, though, that this is not your standard cerveza. This is not like a traditional cerveza. Would you say?
God, no.
And this was your pick too. You were on for the beer this week and decided on this one. What went through your mind when you were looking for it?
Well, I wasn't looking for it. I think we talked about before on the podcast, but if not, or local beer stores. It's not their fault. But we're just not really getting anything like too exciting around here these days. Nothing really, especially with how pricey some of the stuff is now, like $20+ for a 4-pack. Nothing really like that at least makes me want to go and drop such money on a guest beer, So that's why I've been sticking to like the things that I know I like Miller High Life, Sam Summer and Tall Boys, and Sierra Nevada and Tall Boys. You get to have one or two, be good to go to bed, have a good time. So when I was at one of our local stores, I was walked around the whole shop, and I'm like, there's fucking nothing. Jesus. And then I saw this, like, kind of off to the side, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I saw a commercial for this. And you and me both, as we've talked about a billion times, when we do anything that's like a lime or citrus flavored, like lager, like macro lager, we're suckers for them because they're usually just something quite nice about them. We both like Bud Light Lime. We both like Labatt Blue Light Lime a lot. Obviously big fans of Jenny's Ruby Red Coal series and their citrus pills. So like these type of beers speak to us. There's a nice like quality to it. And plus because one of Corona's big marketing things is like, now remember when you have the beer, you just don't have the beer. Gotta have lime with it too.
That's right.
Because they're basically saying this thing sucks on its own. You need something to enhance it. So this beer is called Corona Sunbrew Citrus Cerveza, and it's a mix of lime and orange. And you can definitely tell they put orange in here because the fucking thing looks like either, as you said, Fanta, or as I originally said, because I'm an old soul, orange dry. Ryan, do you want to explain to people what orange dry is?
No, I don't know.
You don't even know what orange dry is?
No, you're older than me.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
I have no idea.
Seltzer and orange juice combined.
Oh, okay.
You can Polar make some. You can get
yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean now. Yeah,
and,
I guess I didn't know it by the name Orange Dry, but
yeah.
I
It's
know
actually
what you
not
mean.
bad. I do like it. I haven't had one forever, but yeah, I mean that's basically what it looks like. Now when you drink it, it doesn't taste like a Corona for one.
I mean,
take a sip. All you really get is big artificial orange and lime. More so, I think the orange and the lime. And it's got a really, really, at least for me, like corn syrupy, overly sugary, flat taste to it. Like you don't get really any beer out of it. And that to me is like what's really disappointing about it. Because if it was how it is, but it didn't have such a big like corn syrupy bite to it, it'd be like alright. But like, because it's just that taste of like just pure corn syrup is really just off-putting to me. And the fact when you drink it, you really don't get the beer itself. I like these are going to be hard for me to drink. This is like one of the most disappointing beers I've had in a while. It's like right up there with like the black cherry vanilla Keller beer from Genesee. Like it's just got that weird, off-putting, not really enjoyable taste. As you said, wine coolery, but again with a big, like straight corn syrup punch to it.
Yeah, I mean, I do get a little bit of that Corona flavor at the beginning of this. I do think that there is an abundance of artificially sugary lime and orange flavoring to it. The label says that there's a splash of juice, and I would definitely agree with that statement that it has to be just a splash, like a little and then the rest is corn syrup, drench it, because it is definitely artificially tasting. I do think a good comparison is that it is like a beery wine cooler, and that it's it's very sweet and sugary, and just a hint of that beer flavor to it. It's not even really that strong either at like 4 something. So it's really similar to a malty style beverage. I think like for me, it's not bad. I definitely would not put it at the level of the Jenny Black Cherry Vanilla Keller beer because that's something that I have not even been able to touch recently. I still have probably like 8 or 9 in my fridge that I've just been like, I really want to touch those. But this doesn't reach that level for me. I think it's drinkable. I think it is, semi-refreshing, especially if it was like a hot day and you kind of wanted something to quench your thirst. I feel like this might be able to do it if you're not opposed to it being, overly sweet. It kind of has a similar idea for me as well to that Founder's Mortal Bloom fruit one that we had off the show, which I did not enjoy. It's kind of that same idea. I don't know if this is like a thing people are doing now. Is it like, sours are too scary for certain people, so they're like, let's just make, with fruit but sweet and sugary, and people will like that. I'm not sure if that's like the new thing, but it kind of reminds me of that as well, which is to say not really beer, like a beer offshoot that's more like maltiness. And
it's
I think
like a Zima.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. I mean,
it's got that same overly corn syrupy taste that and I don't know if it tasted like this in the 90s because we weren't drinking that in the 90s. We were drinking Heisty Ecto Cooler. But it's definitely got like a Zima taste.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like it, yeah, and it's like a kind of a generic malty beverage style thing. So it's okay. I wouldn't seek it out. I wouldn't probably get it again. Just to buy for myself. But I think it's drinkable enough where, I'm not going to throw them out or dump them or anything.
I'm not either, but I'm just saying, like, it's...
I think they're okay enough where I wouldn't mind drinking them.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah. No, I can see it. I can see why. But I think they're drinkable enough. But again, I think I would choose just to have a regular Corona and then just throw real lime into it. Real lime, like real lime juice like normal people do.
Yeah. No, I agree. You know what sucks too is fucking that doesn't suck, but thinking about it, I think a Blue Moon, because I get a Blue Moon at the bar when I go for lunch with my mom quite a bit. I'll get a Blue Moon. Like, do you want orange? And it's like, it already tastes like orange. And so I think they think when I go, I'm like, I don't need it. Like, you don't want the orange, right? And it's like, yeah, I don't want the orange. And my mom's like, you don't like oranges? And it's like, no, I do. It's already a very orangey beer, though. There's no need, like, it doesn't accentuate the beer anymore. A lime with Corona does, because it's already a middling beer. It adds flavor to it.
True. All right. Well, that's Corona Sunbrew Citrus Cerveza. It's probably out everywhere. I think it's the new thing. So if you do see it, think of us. We're not saying get it. I'm just saying think about it. All right. So let's talk Vice Squad. So Vice Squad, 1982, as we said, kind of a seedy, grindhousey style film. I think that's pretty prevalent immediately. Even on the Scream Factory Blu-ray that we watched, the transfer itself is kind of rough. You can see the grittiness of the film stock. The transfer itself is exceptionally grainy, even for the Blu-ray. I think overall the whole thing just has a very grimy feel to it, and I think that's what you're looking for. Like you if you're watching a movie like this, I don't think you want a nice pristine feeling to it. You kind of want to feel the grossness of the city and the nightlife, and I think you get that right away from the beginning of the movie when it starts out with the line of prostitutes that are just basically flaunting themselves and exhibitioning for people driving by to try to pick up.
You also know it's a seedy place because they show the gays.
True. That's right. Yeah. I mean, the film is, I wouldn't say is overly offensive to gay people, but you certainly do get that element to it as well, that it's not just women who are selling themselves. It's men as well. And I like too that the film, pretty early on as well, tries to incorporate the lingo into everything as well. I think they go into some of the details about like, oh, what if I order this? What's that mean? Because there's a new guy on the force too with the Vice Squad. That's kind of our introduction to
What's a golden shower?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I wonder if back in 1982 that term wasn't as widely used as it. I mean, not widely in terms of like people with that type of fetish, but it's just much more well known now what that is. I don't know about in 1982 if the film needed to explain it for its viewers. Like, what's a golden shower?
I don't know if this movie's actually really a Vice Squad because I don't see Cole Phelps picking up a crack pipe going.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know if this is important or not.
But I think right away you get this idea of the Vice Squad of being this detective agency and led by Lieutenant Tom Walsh, who's played by Gary Swanson, who they're cracking down. I believe they call him Lieutenant in this.
I've heard him called Sergeant.
Oh, was he Sergeant? I thought it was Lieutenant. Maybe it was Sergeant.
Who knows?
I must have
Who knows? Because it's not like they say it often, and they all dress up undercover. So
that's true. Yeah, they're all undercover cops. And again, I did watch this film 1 week ago because I was trying to get prepared for it last week, and we didn't end up doing the show, so I didn't rewatch it. But so my memory might be a little bit hazy on some of the details, but. I like the fact that, again, you get introduced to this team. And at the beginning of the film, the Vice Squad, especially with like Tom Walsh and his partner, who's the new guy, just learning. And he, it's it's his first night out trying to actually pick up somebody and, get them for soliciting. I think that it's an interesting dynamic because you initially see them sort of like, everybody's just sitting there waiting for, the sex work to occur. And it almost seems like these cops are just sitting around like they got nothing better to do than just sit there in a squad, undercover in a squad car, just waiting for somebody to be soliciting so that they can go pick them up and arrest them.
What a great use of tax dollars.
Right, exactly.
It's like, what are you doing? Cracking down on people getting blowjobs.
And initially I was kind of like, because, with this film, I hadn't seen it. So I was thinking like, at the beginning of the movie, it does have like a title card that says like, well, the names have changed. This is true stories from the Vice Squad. And we've taken their liberties with it, but this stuff happens, guys. And, like I was thinking like, Vice Squad, did they really want to be just, exhibiting that they're just sitting around waiting for people to solicit sex work? Because that doesn't really look that good to the audience, and especially for me, who's already like, ACAB, like I just found it kind of funny that, we were supposed to, be finding like a heroicness in how the Vice Squad was acting. But then I like the fact that later on, it kind of gets into that detail of like, look, we're not just arresting prostitutes here. We're looking for their pimps because the pimps are really where it's at, and they're the ones that are doing the dirty work, and they're the ones that are, the ones we're really focused on. So again, I don't love the fact that a lot of our movies and pop culture kind of parades around police as some sort of like, wow, look at all the good they're doing, cleaning our streets and.
I would think this film is also anti-cop because like they're so Ramrod's, which beautiful name by the way for
love it. I mean, he named himself that. That's definitely
like you just call me Ramrod.
A pimp a pimp's definitely gonna name themselves that. He didn't get it from anybody. It's not a nickname somebody else gave him. He was like, my name is Ramrod, and they're like, no, it's not. It's Walter.
And then he shot somebody in the head.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, it's Ramrod. It's Ramrod.
But yeah, no, like, cause like the brutality of the cops on the Vice Squad is just as bad as like the pimps and shit. Like every time they're doing police work, they have revolvers to the people they're interrogating's face and be like, "Tell me where Ramrod is, or I'll blow your fucking brains out." It's like,
yeah, or they're like.
It's like all of this would be inadmissible in court. Like, oh, you threatened the person with a violence if
What
They
am I?
didn't cooperate. Well, this case is thrown out.
What
Like, no wonder why Ramrod gets off. Like,
Yeah.
because they're like,
We can't ever bring him down.
They don't put him away. That your jail's just a revolving hotel. It's like, well, yeah. He just shows up with his lure. And he's like, here's the picture of them pointing the gun at my client.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and basically like almost forcing them to solicit, right? Because like some of the other times when they actually do pick up like a prostitute, they're like, yeah, baby, why don't you just give me your special? And they're like, what's a special? Like, the special one. And you're like, oh, you're talking about this? And like, we got you. You just use the lingo. We know that you're a prostitute now. It's like,
you just solicited.
yeah, it's like, guys, stop wasting your time on this bullshit. But I do think that the film does go into a little bit more detail later on because you do see, sort of the underbelly of the sex work trade. That it's not just like, random women who are working for themselves and, trying to make a buck, right, in the city. I do think, too, that Vice Squad does try to understand, to a certain extent, the other side of the city life. There's a part, because the movie kind of focuses specifically on one of the sex workers, Princess, played by Season Hubley, who is sort of this alluring figure in one of the sort of mysteries of the city where, most people have pimps and they, most women are known, but they have pimps and they're protected and they keep getting picked up by the police. Whereas Princess kind of does her own thing. She's known around the city and people, and basically, apparently the film makes it out. This is like widely requested everywhere because throughout, the middle of Vice Squad, it just shows her kind of going here and there to all kinds of clients. One of the most solicited sex workers in the city. But it does try to at least understand the other side of it, where at a certain point, Princess and Walsh are together, and she's like, we both live in the same toilet, because Walsh is like, God damn this fucking city, all these sex workers and pimps and crime and drugs. And Princess is like, yeah, I mean, I live it too. I live the other side. You have to arrest these people. I have to work it. And have sex with it. And so I do think that Vice Squad does an okay job of trying to show both sides of things. Obviously falls more so on the police work in terms of like the protection of the police. But I kind of like that idea of like focusing on both sides. And the city was a seedy place. You do what you got to do, right? And I think
you'd think they'd be better spent like tracking like heroin dealers or something.
Yeah, you'd think, right? And even so, like they do bust into some, bar places and, they interview pimps and stuff like that. But
nice blaxploitation element.
Yeah, a little blaxploitation. Yeah. It kind of reminded me of the French Connection as well, where, when they bust into the club.
Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out.
Yeah.
You've been picking your feet, Poughkeepsie.
But I think I really enjoyed the fact that, Ramrod as the main character, villain, bad guy, is go ahead.
I was gonna say, who would be like, hey, I'm looking for a pimp. Let me meet you want to meet my friend Ramrod?
Yeah. I guess if you need a pimp, you need a pimp, right?
Is he good?
Yeah. I think he's sampling the goods a little too, as the film shows quite a bit. And the main crux of it too is right at the beginning. There's one of Ramrod's women is basically trying to work with the police and or leave him basically, and he just goes over and just creates this like wire hanger swatting device and just starts beating the shit out of her with it, which you don't see. It's off screen, but the implications of it are pretty sinister. I think, and Wings Hauser does a great job as in those scenes of as Ramrod being very disturbingly psychopathic. I think it works really well. But the whole idea is that he murders this woman, and then what I found interesting, as you were talking about with how the police are represented, is Walsh sees her dead body at the hospital and then calls up Princess like, hey, why don't you come down here to the hospital? I got something for you. And then proceeds to like rub her face in the dead body of her friend like a dog or something that just pissed on the carpet. And is like, look at this. And he just keeps shoving her face into the dead body. I was like, holy shit.
What a night this movie is, too. Like, it's almost a 2-hour film, and Princess fucks like 20 guys.
I know.
Her best friend is like found dead. She's at the hospital. She's at the bar like 5 minutes later with the rest of the girls. Whee! You know.
Yeah, I actually didn't think about that it's just all one night because he puts her kid on the bus. Princess puts her kid on the bus, says, all right, it's time to work. It's the night. And then all of that stuff happens in one night.
It's like Saw, like with like all of it happening.
Or it's like Halloween 1 and 2, where you're like, what time is it? What time was trick or treat? And then now they're at the hospital, and then it's still Halloween, and how? yeah, that's it. The film kind of has liberties with
the space-time continuum.
Exactly. And it's like, Princess, how are you balling so many dudes in this span of time? Like, they must be quick.
Well, hell, the guy in the wheelchair that she fucked, like, I mean, I imagine there wasn't like it's the 80s. There's no handicap accessible, like, to that motel, probably.
Sure.
Like,
he had to work for it.
Like, you were in Vietnam, your legs got blown off. Good job, soldier. You can climb yourself right up those stairs.
The film does make it seem like Princess is really in demand, too. Like, she is, like...
Don't get it.
She's the pinnacle of, like, the city life. Everyone is looking for Princess, really. Which again, too, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because it seems like kind of scraping by. But at the same time, like, everybody's requesting her, and she even gets called into like this weird wedding funeral role play that this guy's got going on where she's requested to wear like a wedding, a skimpy wedding dress. And then come yeah,
like or something like.
I know.
Stumbled on the wrong set.
It's strange, but like it's funny because it's just she's doing all of this stuff in the same night, and at the same time too with the way that this film plays out. Ramrod kills the one sex worker woman. Princess finds out about it. They have her go basically undercover with a wire to get Ramrod to admit that he is a pimp, and then they come in and arrest him. They're like, okay, we got you. You said that you want to hire her for sex work, and we got you on
turning tricks.
Yeah, on audio. And then Princess is, can't control herself and like starts smacking Ramrod around to the point where Ramrod's able to get away and run away. And eventually makes his, he's arrested, but he's able to get out of the cop car as well and go on the run. And throughout all of this, Princess doesn't know about this. So she's just going about her night just like it's a normal night. Like, I just got a guy arrested and all good. Let's do the deeds.
What do you want? Anal? Okay, that'll be an extra $25.
Yeah. Which again, too, I know there's, it's inflation, but I was surprised at the cheapness of the prices. I don't know about you.
Well, there's a lot of competition on the market.
I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, as you were saying, it's like Grand Theft Auto Vice City. There's like a prostitute every 3 feet, so you gotta.
Yeah,
gotta keep those prices, down because you got Coco.
You got competitive pricing. It's I was still a little surprised though at like the lowness of the prices. Like I just need a little budget sign out there like low sale price. But yeah, I think I found it interesting that throughout the majority of the movie, especially the middle portion, Princess has no idea what's going on, so she's just doing random things, and Vice Squad is kind of following her in a way that it's just like, oh, let's see what Princess is up to, which I think is probably one of the low points of Vice Squad. I find that the middle portion where we don't see a lot of Ramrod and we're following Princess in kind of her escapades, I find that to be kind of the more boring portion of the movie where it loses itself a little bit. I don't know if you felt the same way, but I thought that it kind of lost momentum because there's especially with Princess, there's no urgency because she doesn't know what's going on. Whereas, sometimes with the detectives, like, Walsh is trying to find her. And they're like going door to door, basically trying to figure out where Princess is. But I found that anytime they're not on, so either Walsh or Ramrod, and it's just focusing on Princess, that was a time where the momentum of the movie kind of ebbed. And I thought that it, lacked something from those moments, especially in the middle portion.
No, I would totally agree. Like the middle part does kind of like seem like just like a boring like TV escapade. Like it's like, oh, okay, like what's going on now? What's going on here? Where's she going? It's just kind of loses its focus for a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I think, part of that is that it's following Princess and what she's doing. And so, like, it is somewhat interesting to see, how she goes about her night and what she's doing. And, like, especially some of, like, the seedier parts of how she has to operate. Like, that one dude who's, like, just extremely sweaty having sex with her and just, like, aggressively saying, like, move, woman, move. You're not doing anything. I'm paying for this. It kind of gives you that sort of like,
how dare you? That is peak male performance.
That's dude, if you're sweating that much, you might as well just go and play like
nice heavy set man laying on top of her. Missionary being like, you dumb bitch. Who's like, well, she only weighs like 50 pounds. Like, why aren't you moving? It's like, well, you're heavy and you picked the wrong position for her.
That's right. She is quite thin. I do like. I think it's interesting that it shows that portion of it, because I think, like, again, it is trying to show what some other parts of the city life go through. I don't know that it just is that effective though, because I do think that it slows down the movie a little bit too much. Whenever we get Ramrod, because Wings Hauser is great in this. I think he does a really good job of showcasing the villain aesthetic, kind of unhinged, untamed. And I think too, it's really nice when we see him going from place to place, like trying to figure out what he's going to do after he's been arrested and he's, escaped, trying to get a gun and get a car. I like the fact that it shows us some of these other friends or acquaintances that he has in the city, and he's still an asshole to them too. Like, the one guy that's giving him a gun and he's like, yeah, no, this ain't going to do it.
Boy.
That's not what I'm paying for. Or like you get the BDSM dude, who, he
I love that guy. Like, that's like just awesome. Like, it's like,
he
would be a total, like, in the 80s, like, this man's the Antichrist, a tattoo on his skull.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot too. Again, because it does try to showcase some of the different parts of, the city and the sex trade too. Just again, like we talked about, there are gay people, and it's showing that it's not just women who are sex workers in this city life. There's a price for everybody, really. What do you think about the brutality of the movie?
The gunfighting is pretty minimal.
Mm-hmm.
There's not like a lot. There's no squibs or anything. So when someone gets shot, it's pretty okay. But like a lot of kind of like brutality is more focused on like the actual beatings and torture.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's got like a good mix,
And I think a lot of it too is kind of implied, which I think works pretty well. You
don't need to see Ramrod using a clothes hanger as like an abortion device on a
exactly.
The implication alone. I was actually cringing, like kind of cringed up every time he was bending those wire hangers, because it's like, oh god, because the old tried and true method of
right. And you
getting that fetus out, wire hanger, a nice trip down the stairs, or a hayride,
Yeah, and you kind of just you get the idea without having to actually see it. It just puts that into your mind. And then again, too, you see the reactions after the fact of they're like, wow, she was really brutalized. And I think that just gives enough where you don't need to actually see it to know, yeah, it was bad, So I like that a lot. I think it works well for the film. I don't think it needed like a exceptional brutality. But I think, it's good enough with what it does. And again, I think that, a lot of that goes a long way with Wings Hauser, who just does a really good job of portraying it. I think it's one of his best roles, of course, and he's really good in that as that type of character. I think he really sells it. I think Gary Swanson does a pretty good job too as Walsh, even though he is somewhat unlikable throughout. You kind of get this idea that he has this obsession with Princess later on. He's kind of trying to figure out why that is. Like, why am I obsessed with this woman? It's sort of like a Pretty Woman sort of thing. But like, I think, it has a nice idea to it where that it doesn't harp on too much of like the romance between them, but it kind of offers that up as like a secondary subplot for the film, especially when they go get hot dogs.
Ooh, I could go for a nice chili dog.
Doesn't he say too, like, goddamn, $3 for 2 hot dogs or something like that? I was like, ooh, man, if I could only dream of paying that little for
how are LA hot dogs
couple
to
of
begin
hot
with?
dogs.
Are they even good?
I don't know. Yeah.
No, like I think Gary Swanson does a pretty, I would say above average. I do like his performance, but it is very wishy-washy at times, from being serious to the over the top, bastard cop. Like, I'm trying to do the right thing, and I'm like, all this movie was missing was like the captain be like, I'm reining you in there, Walsh. You're going off the rails, and and he's like, I gotta catch this guy, and he's like, I got a whole town filled with fucking heroin. Stop picking up random prostitutes. Vice is more than just, sex work. Goddamn. Like, it's
right, because the whole precinct is filled with people they're just arresting at night. They're like, God damn, we can't even do all the paperwork for these people.
What are they doing? Like, what are they like fucking doing? Like, arresting all these people for like their 2-person jail cell? Like,
I know.
And I did love the part where the one pimp was like, I'm not a goddamn drug dealer. I'm a fucking pimp. A pimp, goddamn it. Like, I was cracking up at that. Like, it was, really funny. And like, the paperclip guy. What did you think of that?
It's kind of random. It comes out of nowhere. He just,
some angry asshole comes out of the police office. Like, who the fuck took my paperclips? My goddamn paperclips.
I mean, I think like it's fine though. Like it's
no, humorous... it's great. It's hilarious. Yeah. Like, but it's just like I'm curious if that was actually written in or if that was like ad-lib.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a weird component to this movie, but I did not mind it. I thought it was pretty cool. Just like a fun little excursion for the movie. Let's see what else.
So the one thing I want to say, because I was thinking about it, because this movie's obviously a B movie. It's also got a lot of, scraping by to make an impact. I could have swore this movie was ripping off Blue Velvet. But I guess Dennis Hopper was taking notes from old Wings Hauser, because, it's uncanny kind of the performances here with like the psychopathic, pimp. And just being incredibly, just violent and a sociopathic, mess.
Yeah.
Frank Booth and Ramrod have a lot in common.
Yep, I agree. Let's see what else. The soundtrack is not really widely used throughout, or at least that noticeable, but there is a particular song that is used throughout called Neon Slime, and that's sung by Wings Hauser. What do you think about the Neon Slime that appears in both the opening and closing credits?
It's got just that very middling 80s random, like, scootin' boop dee doo, not
I think it's catchy.
Non-copyrighted music that was written by somebody on Skid Row that was like trying to make,
I think it's catchy, but it's also, it's, I mean, again, too, this is a time period where you had a lot of that sort of, hard rock style that was appearing in movies. And to be honest with you, like, I would not have recognized that was Wings Hauser singing that unless I actually saw it as trivia, which I did. So, I think it's like an interesting song, and I've never heard of it before, besides this movie. So I don't think it really got a wide release at all. But interesting to note, at the very least, Wings Hauser sings. So, besides being a talented character actor, he was also a fairly good singer.
He's basically Jackie Chan.
That's right. Anything else? Oh, how'd you like that, final confrontation between Walsh and Ramrod, where he basically runs him down in the car?
I was gonna say, Walsh is fucking dived through the window, magnificent. Right up there with fucking what the hell? The Lee Van Cleef movie, God's Gone.
Yeah, God's Gone with the jumping roll dive.
It's right up there with or is that Man, Pride and Vengeance? It's one of the two.
It's one of those. I can't remember now. I think it might be Man, Pride and Vengeance, actually.
It's one of the two. It's one of the two, but still, magnificent. It's like Max Payne fucking just all it was missing was bullet times. But it was great. The little shootout was great. His poor buddies get shot up left and right, but it's funny how this one goddamn pip on the Sunset Strip is basically fucking Commando. We need the preamble to this movie, his days trapped in a Vietnam prison or something, because there's no reason for this man to be as canny and crafty as he is. But the ending is great, a nice little violent thing. He takes it over the top and pins him with his car, and doesn't just smush him. He's waiting for him to pull the gun up, and then shoots him in the head twice. So
yeah. I mean, it's a nice chase sequence. Again, it's no French Connection, but the chase sequence itself is pretty good. With the car chasing him down in that truck that he's got. Cross freeways and everything like that. I think it's, it has a pretty good choreography to it. Again, I think it's hilarious too when Ramrod, he's kind of cornered. He's behind a wood wall. And he's just standing there in the alley, and then all of a sudden you see Walsh drive through the wall. It's all good moments. I think it's great. And again too, I think at the end the film is kind of trying to say, hey, look, the cops aren't that bad. They weren't even going to kill him, but then Ramrod raised his gun, so of course Walsh had to shoot him. It has a little bit of that going on too. So I like it though. I like that final sequence, which I think is pretty hectic and a good conclusion for a film that has sort of a quiet middle portion, which I think is one of the low points of the movie. If it didn't have that, if it just kept up the progression a little bit more, I think it would be a very good movie. Whereas right now, I think it's sort of it's a pretty good movie. It's a good cult film. It's nice, grimy, seedy, but doesn't necessarily hit all the right notes. And with that, we might as well give it a score. So, out of 10 missing paper clips that were stolen from that dude, who, again too, that dude is a pretty big guy, so I wouldn't want to get in the way of him and his paper clip.
Oh, you know what, we forgot to mention one other thing. Sorry.
What's that?
Tom Atkins.
Yeah, I know you said that, and I didn't really.
You didn't think that with the haircut and the mustache?
I guess I just didn't really. Yeah, I didn't really see the thing, but I guess I know what you mean.
He looks like a low rent Tom Atkins.
Yeah. I didn't.
Maybe it's
I
Tom
didn't notice
Atkins
it,
undercover.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
using a pseudonym. Like,
True.
I don't want people knowing I was in this movie.
True. So out of 10 missing paper clips, what would you give Vice Squad?
I'll give it 6 out of 10. I think it's a fun enough movie. I think it's a great little mix of like blaxploitation, poliziotteschi, horror, action. It's like I would say it's like a nice B movie version of like what I think an American version of like poliziotteschi would be. It's not bad. Like it's overacted by a billion miles. It's a kind of goofy setup, but it's an original idea. It's fun enough. You get enough mileage out of it. It's got some laughs. It's got some, it's just, I think a pretty decent watch. I think I only checked the time twice when I was watching it for an hour and 37-minute movie. It's not that bad outside of like the kind of 20 minutes where they're doing nothing in the middle, but it's nothing offensive, and it's got, some pretty, I'm starting to sound like Elon Musk, jeez fucking Christ. But it's got like, it's well balanced, and I think it's, good enough. If you like schlocky kind of B movies, give it a watch. If it's not your thing, then give it a watch anyway and see what you think. It could be an entryway for you. And it does make me interested to also see more Wings Hauser's output, because he is fun and charismatic as all hell in this movie. He's the main thing here. Like I said, like this movie and his performance really reminds me a lot of Dennis Hopper's and Blue Velvet, which that movie was 4 years after the fact. So I would have thought that this movie was aping Blue Velvet, but maybe David Lynch was.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah. I would give it I'm going to say 6.5 out of 10. I think it's a pretty good movie. Like I said, I think I've kind of gone over most of my qualms with it. The middle portion's a little, low energy for me. But I think, whenever Ramrod is on screen, and maybe to a lesser extent, Walsh, and his crew, I think that the film has some good energy, and it does a good job of portraying like the cat and mouse game between them. When Princess is on, and no fault of Susan Hubley, I just think that it kind of loses its momentum and loses its direction because she has no idea what's going on. And so it's sort of like just a night on the town for her. And so the energy of that search for her is kind of lost because it's just randomly showing us her encounters with men. I get to a certain point that it's intentional to show us exactly what she does. But at the same time, I really enjoy it. I think that it kind of lessens the film, and makes it feel a little bit too long. With that said, the ending kind of brings it all together. Nice conclusion. I think it does a pretty good job of, kind of trying to see both sides of the equation here. And for that, I think that it's a nice cult film. Like we said, seedy, grimy, really hits the right notes of this time period and what it was trying to accomplish. So for that, I think it's really an interesting watch, and I don't think anybody would be, would have a bad time with this movie. But I think I've seen better, and we've covered better, but it's still a really interesting movie to watch, and I wouldn't stop anybody from watching it. So fun times. All right, so that's our episode on Vice Squad. What do we got coming up next?
I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. There was a couple that I did want to do, like Alice Sweet Alice is one that I was talking about that we could do. Fun underrated slasher film. Actually it has Brooke Shields in it. One of her earliest roles, very, very quick and short though. But it's a great movie. I like it a lot. I've seen it a few times and would recommend it. So that's what I want to cover. I don't know if that'll be next or not, but put it out there. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple other things too. Like, unfortunately, Val Kilmer just recently died as well. So I realize we just recently did Tombstone, but another Val Kilmer movie could be in the mix as well. Do we want to do Batman Forever?
No. Let's just do Alice Sweet Alice.
Yeah, Alice Sweet Alice.
I think 3 tribute episodes in a row.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. I mean, man, people keep dying.
Unfortunately, sorry, Val. But
we'll call Tombstone our tribute episode to Val.
Otherwise, we'd be doing like an episode like every fucking week.
I know.
Like, oh shit, who died?
Another one, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's it's almost like Marvel films at this point. Just keep coming. Which, by the way, yeah, we haven't done any of those, but like the new Captain America just recently came out. We got Thunderbolts coming out. Any of those? Any interest to you?
No, we're done with.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
We've already said we're done with that shit.
Yeah, I'm just
unless it's a Batman, the new Batman, or like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something big. I don't know. Maybe when Doctor Doom, whatever. Is it going to be Doctor Doom or Avengers like Doctor Doom or Fantastic Four Doctor Doom?
Yeah. Fantastic Four is coming out pretty soon, I think.
Well, is that what it is?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that, but I
mean, I was just joking about the Marvel stuff. I know we've kind of moved past that. And I haven't seen any of like the newer ones either, so I really don't have much.
Where did we stop at? Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness?
I think so, yeah. I mean, and they just actually announced a new Spider-Man too. Or at least the title of the new Spider-Man.
So, I'm trying to check this real quick, sorry, but I was going to say, when the hell did the first Spider-Man come out?
Yeah, the first one with what's his name?
Yeah.
Tom Holland? Was it? No,
2017. Holy shit.
Yeah,
so he's not even a baby anymore.
Homecoming,
really.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, Homecoming. So he ain't even a baby anymore. No. He's a goddamn old man. 28 years old. He can't be Spider-Man anymore.
It's true. All right, yeah, so those things are on the docket. Alice, Sweet Alice. Next up for us, I think. That'll be fun. So if you want to hear our episodes that are coming up, you should subscribe to us on any podcast app that you use. Sure, we're on it. You can subscribe, leave us a nice review. It always helps us out. We're on Facebook and Blue Sky. Just search for us on there, Blood and Black Rum Podcast. We also have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com where you can write to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what movies you want us to cover. We'll keep that in mind when we pick our next movies. And of course, you can also donate to us at our Patreon page or on our Spotify page. Anything you donate goes back towards beer. So we appreciate that in advance. Thanks for listening to our episode on Vice Squad and our tribute to Wings Hauser. Hope you enjoyed that. Tune in next time for Alice Sweet Alice, and until then,
take care.